Hello everyone, this is Kodak giving you Game 2 in a best of 3 series between Fnatic's Fenix and mousesports' Thorzain. This game taking place on the Zelnaga Caverns, as we have Thorzain over here in the top right hand side, Fenix on the bottom left. Currently Thorzain takes a 1-0 lead in this best of 3 series, and we'll see whether or not Thorzain can finish it off and not allow Fenix to force a game 3, or if Fenix will be able to come back and be the first one to win a best of 3 matchup, giving a 1-0 lead for Fnatic. Both sides pretty much opening up with very similar builds already. No cheese that I can see on the map at all, as Marines are now making their way, SCVs are making their way out, building the supply depot before they can start building any barracks. So Fenix back over here, sitting inside his base, just continuing to mine away. Same thing by Thorzain. Thorzain playing a little bit more defensively. I know a lot of players wonder why Terran players even build a front door wall against other Terran players, since both sides are range units, but more often than not, a front door wall is able to protect you from Hellions trying to do a drive-by into your base and then massively killing all of your SCVs. So that is always a very, very dangerous situation that you have to be aware of. Thorzain getting up this barracks. Meanwhile, we also see the barracks up and running. No refinery yet, no Fenix. Finally getting that refinery, just a little bit behind. About 5 seconds, but that shouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, as now Thorzain first to scout with his 14th SCV. Same thing with Fenix. He is also scouting with his 14th SCV as well, as the game is now going into the early stages. Now, it doesn't look like anyone's really trying to do any all-in aggression here at this stage. Most likely off of that factory, they will build a supply depot. As soon as that supply depot is done, he will then be able to set up a factory, as you need just a little bit of time to try to harvest and get enough gas. In this particular instance, once more, Thorzain able to scout around on the inside of Fenix's map, while Fenix is unable to do any scouting. So Fenix is now playing in the dark. He doesn't know that his opponent has gas, and he doesn't know really what to expect. Supply depot is now done. Should have enough for a factory right now, so we'll see if a factory does come into play or if it's going to be mass barracks. It is in fact a factory. One factory already up, while Fenix going into an earlier reactor. Earlier reactor obviously means a lot more Marines, and it also allows you to build a factory after the barracks. And what that allows you to do is you can double train Hellions while still training up some Marines for decent protection. We'll see if it is going to be a factory right here. Yeah, there's that factory now coming into play. We may get 2, perhaps even 4 Marines trained up before that factory takes the place of that reactor. Or this may just be standard Marine tank play without stim, trying to put pressure on the front door. The only real difficulty is trying to gain sight onto that high ground. Meanwhile, Thorzain also getting a reactor as well. So similar strategies, but different executions and different process and order. So we'll see who will be able to take the advantage here in just a moment. Command center now being built by Fenix. Meanwhile, Thorzain going in for a starport instead. We are only running off of 1 gas with the command center here, so Thorzain building his command center within the confines and safety of his home right now, as we are now going into that reactor Hellion swap that I mentioned earlier, and there's the double training of the Hellions. We need to get a starport though, so there's that starport now. The starport will be completed. It will allow, by the time the starport is done, 1 set of Hellions will already be out, or almost 2 sets of Hellions may be out as well, as we are now going to perhaps Banshee play once more. So Thorzain sticking to this classic Banshee play off of a reactored Hellion. And the reason why it really works out so well is that Marines obviously don't take gas. You're able to get up a lot of Marines if you need to defend off against any early aggression. And then that Banshee is able to take, or able to clean up any Marauders or any Hellions if they try to run up that ramp. There's one poor SCV there, runs up the ramp. You can see Fenix can't really do anything except for try to burn down the supply depots. And that is always very, very difficult for Hellions to burn down a supply depot. Marines now backing off once more. The Banshee about 2/3 of the way completed, as another barracks going to be placed down. It looks like there will be a swap once more, as the Banshee is only trained up just in order to put a little bit of pressure. Now going to go into a Raven instead. A scanner sweep should reveal that starport there. Yes, it does in fact reveal the starport, and now we may get some missile turrets into play, perhaps even a Viking out. Yeah, Fenix with that Viking should be able to deter this one Banshee from being able to do any serious threats at all. The Viking does have the same movement speed as a Banshee, so as long as if the micro is good enough and the Viking gets close enough initially, it's going to be very difficult, as the Banshee now getting off a couple kills already, trying to get as much damage. They're already getting a couple Marine kills, another Marine now shot down, and it looks like 200 resources already lost there. Out moves the Viking though, so the Viking now going to engage, and the Banshee realizes it doesn't really have a chance to escape, trying to get as much damage as possible. Will be able to finish off a couple more workers before the before this one poor SCV gets down to half-life. The Viking now on the move, trying to see if it can clean up any additional units. 350 resources lost compared to 250, so only one Banshee lost compared to four Marines and I believe 3 SCVs. So that Banshee was definitely worth its weight, as the Viking now on the move once more. We are going into that stim pack research. We are getting a medevac, double training up Marines once again. The Viking just trying to get as much scouting information and sight as possible, as we are now going into double racks. 2 supply depots being built along the backside. The Hellions will not be able to drive by and make their way through, as Thorzain nearing completion on the cloaking field. So perhaps Fenix will, or sorry, not Thorzain, Fenix going for cloak, so perhaps he will be able to get a little bit of damage from this one Banshee. Banshee currently sitting at 60 energy. It does take 25 energy to initiate the cloaking field, and then a 0.9 energy in order for every second that you want to maintain the cloak. So it does take quite a bit of energy before that Banshee will be able to before long that Banshee will end up decloaking. Back here, Hellions now trying to engage against a lot of Marines. The Hellions do not want to try to engage there, as now a cloaked Banshee now makes its way inside the base, is going to be able to get off a lot of kills, as it has a decent amount of energy left. 41 seconds, or essentially 30 seconds left. In comes a Raven. That Raven, oh, the SCVs are repairing each other, making it more difficult for that one Banshee to maximize its damage. Already getting up to 6 kills. Is not gonna, no, already up to, yeah, 6 kills, looking to get even more damage here. Perhaps going to be able to shoot down some of these SCVs. It doesn't look like it will be able to at all, as a main engagement happening over here. Marines and tanks, both sides battling out. Fenix trying to get as many kills with these units as with his one Banshee as possible. Hellions now trying to retreat, but Thorzain now pushing in with a lot of pressure. Siege tank even out of siege mode, dealing a lot of damage. Marines now trying to push their way through. The Hellions do not have that blue flame research, so the Marines are going to be able to clean them up just a little bit. And one siege tank trying to battle it out against the rest of this siege tank and army there. And Fenix taking a look at the unit combinations, 47 compared to 48 in terms of Harvester. Army-wise, both sides pretty even. Thorzain with a very small advantage, but he will not be able to press it. He'll just have to play a little bit more defensively as well. Now, both sides have lost a lot of workers. Both sides are now figuring out what their long-term goals and strategies are. And at this stage, I'm surprised that Thorzain hasn't started to clear out these rocks, or any player has tried to start clearing out the rocks. The rocks are going to be very important to try to establish that all-important third base. Xel'Naga Caverns, a little bit more difficult to establish your third base, as that third base is rather exposed, and you start to spread yourself a little bit thin, so it's a nice balance attempt there. You can see Fenix just patrolling with that Viking, hoping to catch a medevac in transition, as 2 SCVs are now battling it out for control of the Xel'Naga Watchtower here. Siege tanks on the move once more. Marines are only 0-0 upgraded, as we are going into the 250mm strike cannons. This is something that you do not see every day, and that and especially when you don't see any Thors in production. I'm kind of curious as to what Thorzain's trying to do at this stage. No Thors in production, and no Thors out in the field. Marines now pushing their way out. It looks like the Vikings, or it looks like it's going to be once again another elevator drop perhaps, and now has to be very careful, as that missile turret may be able to get some damage there. And now you can see that the medevac getting some damage. Siege tank is starting to blast away, and oh, the medevac was taken down. That was a horrible, horrible loss there, as both sides, Vikings are now dropping in some point defense drones. Vikings unable to fight back. Siege tanks are both sides battling it out here. One siege tank on the low ground. finishing up a couple more Marines, as there are, a group of 4 Marines inside here trying to get as much damage onto workers as possible. It looks like some damage was dealt, but 57 Harvesters compared to 51 at that state in this stage of the game, and no one with any real serious advantage yet. Marines and tanks now pushing their way through. This one Raven may get shot down. That's going to be a very expensive unit to lose there. Yeah, has to be careful. Losing a Raven like that, always very painful. 300 resources gone in a flash. No more detector, no more point defense drone. As Thorzain establishing his 3rd base now. You can see that this command center going to be landing here in just a moment. The SCVs are going to also start doing a little bit of long distance mining, as this may upgrade to a planetary fortress. Thorzain also doing the same thing, as well as both sides are now trying to engage. No side sieging up just quite yet. Oh, Thorzain does have 1 siege tank sieged up, as the Marines are now trying to clean up the rest of these siege tanks here. Another siege tank getting destroyed, and more siege tanks may get destroyed as well. So wow, Thorzain able to push that advantage with his more mobile units, and now those Marines perhaps going to finish off this planetary fortress here. SCVs coming over. They need to start repairing this command center, upgrading to a planetary fortress, as now Thorzain dropping with a very low hit point medevac. And it looks like the Marines are going to be able to put even more pressure. This is going to be a bit of a problem, as the SCVs are now trying to charge in. It doesn't look like that much damage will be had. Marines should probably be focusing down the medevac instead. There are a couple Marines left, but those Marines will get taken down. Meanwhile, in the battle over here, 1 siege tank by Thorzain going to start shelling away at the planetary fortress. These Marines really have nowhere to run at all, as Thorzain now sitting on a pretty dominant map position at this time. 1850 versus 1400, 2150 versus 1400, as both sides are still macroing up. A lot of Marines, no Marauders in sight at all, as the Vikings now take to the air and try to get more and more damage in. Marines now coming in along the backside here and going to be able to clean up some SCVs as well. Those SCVs finally being forced to pull back here, as Fenix now trying to move in, and it looks like those units will get cleaned up. A group of Marines now just going to be able to battle it out here. Marines now pushing in once more. The planetary fortress is going to get a lot of damage onto those Marines. You can see how much damage was dealt, as this command center is now established at the low ground expansion. Nothing happening over here, as Thorzain looking to perhaps put some pressure along this side. Thorzain does have a planetary fortress of his own, so it's going to be very difficult to try to break that line, as the siege tanks, both sides just continuing to just shell it out. SCVs are now going to get destroyed, as well as the siege tanks are now pushing their way through. 1 Viking, both sides exchanging blows. The siege tank now pushing in. Marines may try to stim in, but I believe this planetary fortress will fall in just a second, if not burn down. And there it goes. There is an expansion now down over here, also upgrading to a planetary fortress, as Marines looking to do an elevator drop. Yes, so Fenix elevator dropping into this location here. Meanwhile, Thorzain finishing off that planetary fortress there, as both sides are just destroying each other's economy, and Fenix able to just stim in, get so much damage, and now back off once more. Marines of Fenix trying to finish off Thorzain's units there, as now Thorzain should be able to pull back. Thorzain currently running off of just only the gold mineral patches, essentially. Meanwhile, Fenix only running off of 1 full mineral patch between these 2 bases, and that's going to be a bit of a problem, as the siege tanks now once again pushing forward, and this planetary fortress is going to fall rather quickly. You can see how many siege tanks are here. So many siege tanks dealing so much damage. 3 tanks just destroyed, obliterated in a second, as the Marines are now trying to push their way through. The siege tanks, focus firing onto the planetary fortress instead of trying to battle it out against those units there, and there's the GG. So Fenix, with a bit of a mistake, they're focusing down the planetary fortress instead of handling the Marines and the tanks as they were coming in. Those 5 siege tanks could have easily melted away that front attacking army, but because they were focusing on the planetary fortress that was getting repaired, those Marines and tanks were able to come in and then finish it off. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed Game 2 in this Best of 3 series. Thorzain taking it. So now it looks as though mousesports has taken the early win, and it is now 1-0 in favor of mousesports, as Thorzain wins this Best of 3 series 2-0. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.